Sister Tomi Nweke she has a BSc in biochemistry from the University of Lagos and an MSc in energy studies, specializing in international oil and gas management from the University of Dundee. Tomi started her career at First Bank of Nigeria Limited, where she worked at the project implementation unit of the Corporate Transformation Department, implementing several key strategic initiatives for the bank. She refers to herself as an accidental teacher, as she only discovered her passion for education following the birth of her children. She worked at Greenwood House School, Ikoyi, Lagos, where she, amongst other achievements, established the crèche and toddler ages 3 months to 2 years program for the school and won the award for our contribution to the school outside of the classroom. As our interest in providing equal access to quality education grew, Tomi enrolled at the Corona College of Education, Lagos, where she graduated with dual degree, professional diploma in education and advanced diploma in early childhood care, development and education, graduating with several awards. She has also completed an early childhood teaching diploma at HEI Schools, University of Helsinki, Finland. Tomi is licensed by the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. She also holds the Cambridge Teaching Knowledge Test TKT certificate module 1 to 3 and is Prince 2 an embodiment of, just personal development. This is awesome. Tomi is the founder and lead trainer at the House, an organization which provides ECD, teacher training workshop, continuous professional development, nursery schools in Lagos State, with a particular focus on low-income nursery school, parents engagement and training seminars on early childhood development, birth to age 8, and play-based learning. The Tree House also runs play sensory based sessions for children aged 7 years, where learning is hands-on and engaging and facilitates creative writing intervention camps for upper secondary students. Tomi believes that the continuous professional development of all teachers is the key to ensuring the equitable provision of quality education. She's a returning speaker on PRGCC with Jesus Joy and a rousing ovation. Please let's welcome Tomi Nweke as she takes on this session. God bless you. Please let's give her some virtual claps. We can also unmute to just say welcome to her and thank you for speaking to us today.
Thank you so much once again for inviting me. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be back with you. I hope everybody can hear me very clearly.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes,
Great.
we can.
Thank you very much. Today I've been, sorry?
So do you want me to give you the host rights? Would you want to share your screen?
Yes, please, if you can, that's fine. I will just share my slides if you would like to see that.
Yes, I'll do that shortly.
While we're waiting for that, like I said, thank you once again. I am always so happy to be in the company of parents like myself, because I believe that as I'm speaking, I'm also learning from you. And I hope that you will be happy to contribute to our discussion today. It's not a lecture, it's a discussion. So if you give me a moment, just share my screen with you. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I will use the PowerPoint slides to a particular point, and then I might turn it off and then just begin to speak from my heart. So today I've been asked to speak with you about parental involvement in education. As we know, most of our children are resuming tomorrow, and those that are not are resuming on the 12th. And this is a very important discussion to have at this time, as we plan back to school activities and we plan the term going forward. So this is a very huge topic that I've been asked to speak on. It's so massive. I didn't even know where to slim it down and cut it down to fit an hour, but I'm going to try my best to share some very important and key things with you. Please, if you can't hear or see, just let me know, please. I'll start with setting expectations and all of that. We've introduced myself. I'd like to hear from you how old your children are, if you don't mind, at least from a couple of people. And I'd also like to hear from a few people what you want to take away from this webinar. I mean, when I say what you want to take away, I mean, what questions do you want answered, so that it helps me make sure that I'm speaking to you from the right point of view. So while I will ask you all now to please, introduce yourselves, as many people as we can, as time can allow, maybe 3 or 4, and tell us how old your children are and what you want to take away. So over to you all. Hello.
Hello, yeah, I'm Margaret Akins. I have a 7-year-old boy.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Margaret. Anybody else? All right. Can anybody at least let us know, understand what you'd like to take away from this webinar?
Okay, hi, my name is Binibe, and I've got a 10-year-old and 7-year-old girls, and yeah, I would just like to learn how to, coach them, because I know obviously they're learning stuff from school and all of that, but how to just help them to get more out of what they are learning from school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
For me, for Margaret, for me, I have a 7-year-old. Yes. I've noticed this kinesthetic. You can't get his attention beyond 15 or 10 minutes. I want to know how at least I can expand it and have him paying attention to whenever he's learning.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing. In the interest of time, I'll just go on. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So these are the things I had hoped to answer, and I will keep in mind what questions you have asked as well. Why is parental involvement in education important, and what areas do I need to be involved in? What are my family and learning philosophies, and what are the educational implications of this? Learning styles, learning approaches, and how do they affect teaching and learning? What does parental involvement look like in the early years, and what does it look like in upper primary and secondary school as well? Early years education, just for clarity, is considered as education that occurs between ages 0 and 8 years old. So I'll first of all start off by the basis. I consider this to be very important, and consider it to be so important that I think I might actually even switch to show you, turn on my camera so you can see my face while we discuss this. Can you all see me? Okay. So I'll go ahead and discuss the basis of education decisions. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Can we all mute, please, so that we can hear our speaker very well? Please, let's all mute. Thank you.
So I want to start off by discussing the basis of all the educational decisions that we make, and I consider this to be the most important aspect of parental involvement in education. The first involvement that we have in education of any children is of our children is the selection of schools for them, what schools they go to, and what educational approaches do we choose to follow with our children. And I'd like to discuss a few points about this. Many times, oftentimes we select schools for a variety of reasons. I mean, if you go on Instagram today, you'll find so many guides to selecting a school, you know, ranging from financial to recommendations to have a look at the place, how clean is it, to you know, all sorts of things. But many of those guys fail to focus on certain things, which I want to draw your attention to today. I think to start with, the very first question that every parent needs to ask before they go on a journey of selecting the school is, what are your values? What are your own values? What are your family values? And are they clearly defined? We all have an idea of what our family values are in our brain, in our mind. We all know that, oh, I want my children to be kind. I want my children to be honest, hardworking, and things like that. But have we actually sat down with our partners and our children to discuss what our family values are exactly? What are they? Are they clearly defined? Are they clearly articulated? Do your children, if you call your children today, can they tell you what your family values are? For example, in my family, one thing that I take very seriously is kindness. And I come from the approach that if you are kind, you have solved a lot of issues, because a kind person will be a good husband, a kind person will be a good wife, a kind person will be good to their neighbors. Remember, this holiday, one of the Bible verses that my sons and I dwelt on was the Bible verse that speaks about do not pay evil for evil. Instead, see that you do good to everyone around you, right? And I'm just paraphrasing right now. And while we were speaking about it, I told them, I said, if you're kind, it will be difficult for you to do evil to other people, right? So that's a clearly defined family value in my home. And another clearly defined family value is hardworking. It's hard work. You might be wondering why I'm talking and speaking about values, but I'll tie it into the decision around the schools that you send your children to in a moment. Another thing that is very important to clearly define before you begin to select a school is, what is your learning approach? What's the learning approach for your family? And what's your philosophy around education? What do you see education as? And very quickly, I will describe to you, there are so many philosophies of education, uncountable. I can't begin to explain all of them, but very quickly, I'll describe to you the three major ones, you know, and we'll have an aside and you tell me which one is more prevalent in Nigeria. There's one philosophy of education called essentialism, and that philosophy of education focuses on basically passing down what we refer to as body of knowledge. So there's this knowledge that we have, that the human race has. It's called race knowledge. The human race has, you know, decoded this knowledge all through time. For example, with the human race has found out what gravity is, and has found out the effect of gravity. What goes up must come down, and all of that. Essentialism believes that education is merely a tool for you to use to pass along all the knowledge that the human race has already decoded. So basically, in such an environment, education is lecture. It's children sit and listen to the teacher, and the teacher is the fountain of all knowledge. That's what essentialism generally is. We also have another theory of education called progressivism. And progressivism, what it means is that the philosophy believes that children have a say in what they learn, how they learn it, and that education is meant to meet the needs of the child, clearly defined needs of each child. That's the goal of education. There's also Reconstructionism, and that one believes that the goal of education is basically to foster a spirit of discontent in the child. So the child is able to look at their society, look at what is wrong with that society, and say, okay, my education is tailored to saying, in this my society, there's so much abuse of the ocean, for example, abuse of waterways, for example. How can I help my society to, you know, be better at conservation, or as, you know, conserving water resources and things like that? And then education helps that child find solutions to that problem. Now, why am I talking about these two things? First, I spoke about clearly defining our family values. Second, I spoke about deciding what our philosophy on education is. And the reason I've quickly spoken about this is that when you want to pick a school, you have to pick a school that ties into your family values. You have to pick a school that believes in your philosophy of education. If your philosophy of education is teach children sit, teachers teach, you will find it difficult if you go on to a school that is a play-based school, or a school where there's a lot of hands-on projects and things like that, and vice versa. If your philosophy about education is that, oh, children should participate in their education, they should construct their knowledge, they shouldn't just be told that 2 + 2 is 4, but they should actually work through discovering that 2 + 2 is 4 through the use of concrete materials, then you will have a problem in a school where the teacher just sits the children down and is speaking to them and giving them knowledge and being the center and the fountain of all knowledge. So I think that the very first step of being involved in your child's learning, your child's education, is a selection of schools. I'm not going to dwell on all those other things that we find on Instagram and social media. I'm just going to dwell on those 2 points because of time. So that's the very first step. And I think that for those of us here who are children haven't started school, it's a good time to sit down and first of all identify what are my family values. What family values do I want to partner with the school I select for my children to develop, and also what is my philosophy towards education? What do I see as an educated child? Who is an educated child? What are the characteristics of an educated child? And then when you are selecting a school, you begin to see if that school that you are selecting ties into your ideals. Another thing about parental involvement is setting goals for your child. So for example, I set some really lofty goals for my children for by the time they turned age 6. Some of them I was able to achieve, we were able to achieve, and some of them I completely failed in them. And my choice of school did not help in those goals, I usually encourage parents to have a 5-year plan for their children, and then break it down to a 2-year, 1-year plan as well. A 5-year plan for your child can include things such as, by the time my child is age 8, I want them to be speaking French fluently. I want them to be able to play music. I want them to be able to do XYZ. And your 5-year plan covers areas such as education, character development, moral development, values, your religion, I believe we're all Christians here, your religion, and how deep into your religion do you want your children to be? How well do you want them to be able to express their faith and all of that? And this also helps you in selecting your school for your child as well. So once again, 3 things that you should consider before selecting a school for your children, which is the very first step of parental involvement in education. Number 1, clearly articulate your family goals and values, so your family values. Number 2, clearly articulate what your philosophy on education is and what you feel that an educated child looks like. I'll give you an example just to clarify. For me, an educated child is not only a child that can have good manners, and then I would define what my manners are. And then I believe that an educated child should be confident. An educated child should be a child that is able to solve problems. An educated child should be able to read and write. These are some things that I consider as a child who is educated. And those are things that I would look for in a school that promotes problem solving, a school that dwells on building self-confidence in children, a school that not only teaches children to read and write, but is very big on their manners as well. And those manners are as defined by me and my family. At this point, I'll just briefly stop to answer any questions you might have on this very first point of parental involvement in children's education. At there any questions? Hello, any questions, please? Okay, I'll move on. I'll move on quickly. There are no questions. Right now, I'd like to move on to some general points that all of us, whether we're parents or parents in early childhood or parents of children in secondary school, need our involvement in education. When we have selected a school that our children, we want our children to attend, there are some questions, there are some very important questions that we need to ask, and not just ask only when the child is going into the school, but continually ask. One of those questions is, what is the plan? What's the school's plan for professional development of their teachers? The teachers that are in that school, you shouldn't, your child's school shouldn't have teachers who had just a BSc, for example, or an ND only, for example, and then you're still in that school 2 years, 3 years later, and those teachers are still at the same place. What's the school's plan for professional development for their staff? Do they hold trainings regularly for their staff? These trainings in line with what is going on in the world, with the best. Sorry, I'm reading the question. What if your child has passed that stage, say SS3? How do you pass these goals? Okay, I'll speak specifically also to teenagers, our involvement in the education of teenagers as well. I'll speak specifically to that in a moment. I'm so sorry, I'm rushing. I'm so aware of the time. You also have to ask questions such as, what is the discipline policy of the school? And also ask all the time if these discipline policies have been reviewed. What is the policy? The schools should have clearly laid down discipline policies. Not that discipline is just something that is just, out of the blue or at the teacher's discretion. Clearly defined discipline policies. Okay, let me quickly answer Abiola Oyekule's question. Please unmute and go ahead, please.
Okay, so there is a question in the chat box. So I'm just trying to call your attention to it.
I saw it. I've read it out, and I said that. Hello,
okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah.
I read it out, and I said that I will attend to it when we're speaking about parents' participation in the education of teenagers.
All right, thank you. I must have missed that.
Okay, so also we have to ask questions like, what is the discipline policy? For example, does the discipline policy include things like holding the children back during break time? Oh, you haven't finished your work, so you can't go out to play, or you can't eat your food. And are you okay with that? Is that something that you're okay with? These are questions you need to ask. The next thing that you need to ask is, what are the goals that are set for your child, your own child in school? Usually, and I find this lacking in many schools in Nigeria, when they send home the results, what they usually send in the results is just math, and they give you a score, and they say, oh, the child has worked hard. That's not a result for me, because even in your offices, you have KPIs, you have set goals. Am I correct? So at the beginning of the term, you're meant to sit with your teacher, the child's teacher. Sorry, can you all hear me?
Please, can we mute our mics, please? Thank you so much.
Can you kindly indicate if you can all hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so whether your child is in primary school or in secondary school, it is very beneficial to sit with your child's teacher at the beginning of the term. Give your child's teacher at least 1 or 2 weeks, first of all, to assess your child in that new class, to get to know your child. After 2 weeks, you can then call your child's teacher and say, Mrs. Lagbaja, you have known my son now. It's time for us to sit down together and discuss our goals for his learning and his development. Now, I usually advocate that these goals be written down. It shouldn't just be an oral thing. Actually going to sit down and meet with your child's teacher and actually say with them, discuss with them when it comes to the educational aspects in English. This is what I want. This is what we agree for my child to meet at the end of the term or by half term. This is it in numeracy. This is it in manners. This is it in social interactions. Clearly define the goals that you want your child to meet. And the teacher needs to be involved in this conversation. It's a critical conversation to have with your child's teacher. And the reason why you should have this conversation is because when you have these goals clearly articulated and written down, sometimes, trust me, some teachers will be resistant to doing this. Some schools already implement this, but many don't. Some teachers will be very resistant, but you must insist on it. Because when you know what goals that you have set, and this is beyond them sending you the curriculum. This is for your own child. In addition to the curriculum that they give to you for the term or whatever, or the scheme of work for the term. For your own child, it might be that your child is weak in math. And but what aspect of math? Okay, my child is weak. I have a son who is weak in math facts. What do we refer to as math facts? Math facts is the 7-year-old boy. Math facts are those things that should come easily to you. When I tell you 10 plus 3, you should easily be able to tell me 13. 2 plus 3, you should easily be able to tell me 5. So now, as a goal for my son with his teacher, one of the goals is that we are going to improve his knowledge of math facts between numbers 1 and 20, so that if I ask him anything concerning addition or subtraction between numbers 1 and 20, he will be able to tell me the answer. So that is one of my goals with my son for this first half of the term. This is in addition to the scheme of work. And the reason why it's important to so clearly articulate the goals with the teacher is because, when you go for that PTA meeting that they have at half term and you ask your child's teacher, how have you done? How has my child done this term? How many people just hear, oh, he's good. He's trying his best. He's well behaved. I have no complaints about him. Please just indicate if you've heard your child's teacher say anything like that. And can you tell me how you feel when you hear your child's teacher tell you that? Does that give you any indication of exactly where the child is? Is that an answer? I'll just wait to see if anybody would like to answer me.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So yeah, now you're really giving a lot of perspective to how we need to engage. For me, all right. So I've heard this kind of conversation with my children's teacher, especially those in the primaries. You go for PTA and you hear, yeah, he's doing well, he's okay, but there's really nothing, specific like what you just said now. So if we had, talked about a goal, a particular goal where we need to reach, that would inform a clearer conversation. Like, okay, this is what we had set at the beginning of the term, and this is where we are at. So for me, this is very instructive. So it helps me now to know how exactly what to engage, how to engage my son's teacher. This is where we need to be, not just a general statement of, oh, he's doing well, he's improving. I hear that a lot of time. But what are we really measuring in terms of, the metrics? So what you're saying is that we need to actually have like a growth metrics. Where are we going to, so that we can have better measurement of where we are at? So thank you.
Yes. Yes, and that is why I said give your child's teacher 2 weeks at the beginning of the term, because by then a good teacher should know where that child is at and where that child's problems are at. So for example, a good teacher should know that this child has issues in reading, and what aspect of reading, maybe in phonics, maybe in blending, maybe in being able to comprehend a passage when they read it and all. And then a good teacher should be able to say, look, this is where this problem is. So this is our plan of how we're going to work on it. And then we'll reevaluate at the middle of the term and see where we are at. Somebody was raising their hand up. Shola, I think, had their hand up earlier on. If you'd like to speak now.
Okay, now I usually ask a lot of questions. Sometimes in recent times I decide to keep quiet because hold on please, the call is talking.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you
Because
clearly.
okay, I usually ask a lot of questions, but I found out that many times schools don't want to answer you, or they begin to tag you as a difficult parent because you are asking questions. Exactly, they begin to tag you as that. I've had a teacher say to another teacher that left the school to say, "What does Mrs. Alagbe want? We don't understand what she wants and all that," because I ask specific questions. I go into details. I will say, okay, maybe I've left school for a while, and then I'm asking you, okay, why is this note not explicit enough so that I can help my child with it, since I will study with him sometimes and all that. And you tell me that's what you give everybody and all that. What if I didn't go to school and I want to learn with my child? How do I? And then after that time, you know, all the teachers, you know how they gather and all that. I had to start keeping quiet and do my background work. What do you do in that instance?
So I understand you perfectly, and I have seen this happen so many times. First of all, the first thing I'll say to you is that is a red flag that you're in the wrong school, because there's such a thing called a homeschool partnership. A child cannot thrive without a good homeschool partnership. So a school where you are termed to be a disruptive parent, if you clearly know that what you're just doing is asking questions and you're not being disruptive, a school where they cannot give you clear answers, at the end of the day, let me tell you what many teachers say. I'm a teacher as well, and I've heard it said many, many times. Well, this child is in my class for just 9 months of a year. After that, parents will go and be doing the wahala by themselves, right? And then they keep on moving your child. Early this year in January, I had, what I call it, the privilege of working with a particular child who was in primary 6. And that child had failed every single common entrance exam that child had written. And that child had gone to one of the most expensive schools in Lagos from age 18 months to primary 6. His twin brother did well, but he failed every single common entrance exam that he had written. And one of the issues that arose when I spoke with the parents is that the parents had been made to feel like they were troublemakers, so they had kept quiet, and they had trusted that the school knows what they are doing, so let me just keep quiet and, stop talking. Only at the end of the day, for this child to be unable to pass any common entrance exam. Now, I don't blame the school. And I told the parents as much. I blame you, because if I are collecting my money, especially in this economy of today, I have every right to ask you questions. I have every right to ask you to show proof of the work that you're doing, because in my own workplace as well, I'm asked to show proof of what I'm doing. That's number one. Number two, you must always remember that you're your child's number one advocate. Your job as a parent is to make sure that your child is learning, and anybody that is hindering your efforts and making sure that your child is learning is not on your team and is not a good partner. It's a red flag. It's a red flag. There are still schools in Lagos today that entertain concerns of children. Please don't be deceived and think that they are not. Yes, Adeyemi Olorunfemi, can you ask the question? I'll just take this last question and then we'll go on. Kemi's phone, Adeyemi's hand is up. Would you like to ask the
Yes,
question?
good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I only want to add one or two things to the question one of
Why?
our mothers just asked now, and the question we are handling presently.
Why? You must have a
Now,
reason. Why?
as a teacher, as a teacher or parents to your teacher, first thing first, you
Is there
must
any
establish a
particular reason
cordial
you feel
relationship.
tired on Wednesdays?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but somebody's phone is unmuted. Can you please mute your phone? I think it's Olufumilayo's iPhone.
So you must establish a relationship with your teacher as a parent. And two, our manner of approach matters a lot, in the sense that how did you throw the question to the teacher? Fine, this is before a teacher can copy a note on the board, it has gone through the school management, which happens to be the head teacher. If the note is not certified by the head teacher, the note cannot get to the classroom. So one, for a note to be given to your children in school, it has gone through the school, at least the school manager's table, who happens to be the head teacher or the principal or whatsoever, because I strongly believe teachers are meant to prepare their lesson notes. And if you are claiming that notes given to your children is not well explained, blah, blah, go back to your children's textbook and follow up with them. Fine, if a child complains that I don't really understand what this teacher is teaching me, establish a cordial relationship with the teacher, so that the teacher can be given such child special attention. And two, when a teacher like that, you came the first time, no attention, second time, no attention, walk down to the school management, check your son or daughter's what is it called, daily personal report. They do come back home with personal report. You can see some things from those reports and work on that. Because if you keep reporting yourself, if you keep complaining, sometimes as a teacher, the teacher won't give your children attention as expected. And two, you keep changing a child. Changing a child's school has effect. It has impact on the academics. I'm not part of an act of changing children's school. Fine, if the environment is not conducive for the child, maybe safety-wise or the like, before you took your child to that school, you strongly believe that the school offers the best. Yes. So you are after that best. I have a role as a mother to play. If I didn't check my children's note per day, I can't sleep. We do our assignment together. The one I don't understand, I always engage their daddy. You know, if I didn't go to school, that is where an extra teacher, maybe a place of coaching, something like that, will come in. Please, we have to be, so that we can balance the two equations as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input. I'd like to just say that at the end of the day, even as bankers or as business owners, we all have customers who some people might term as problematic. But I think that finding the right balance and communicating correctly is very important. Like I have said, at the beginning of the term, it is very, very important to establish expectations and goals, so that you know when they are being met and when they're not being met. It's also very important to understand the teacher's teaching style and your child's learning style, and make sure that they match. I am not of the opinion of managing a school, I'm very sorry to say, because if my child is remaining in the wrong environment, that also has an impact on my child's education, on my child's self-esteem, and of all of that. I'm a firm believer in trying to make things work, but if they are not working, don't force it. That is my own personal belief. So I will just leave it at that. I will say, because like we have only 10 minutes more and I haven't even scratched the surface of what we're supposed to speak about today. Like I said, please make sure that you set goals with your child's teacher at the beginning of the term, so that at half term, you know what you are reviewing, you know how far you have come and how far you need to go. So moving on from that, I was speaking about general ways that all of us can participate in our child's education, regardless of what age the child is. Another thing is setting goals with the child. Once you have set goals with the teacher and it is clear what you want to achieve, please don't ever think that your children are too young to set goals with them. If your child is 5, 6, or 7, you can set small, bite-sized, little-sized goals for them. And you need to set, the routines are so important. The routines are very important. Establishing routines are very important. Establishing study routines are very important. What do I mean by study routines? When your child comes home from school, what is the plan? What is the child expected to do when they get home from school? And how do you establish it? Now, people tend to just say, oh, you start shouting, but there is a teaching part before implementing. When you want to establish a rule, you have to teach a routine, rather, you have to teach that routine first. You have to work with the child. So it is an I do, we do, you do. I don't know if you've heard that saying before. I do. So when you come home from school, by myself, I collect your lunch box and we walk together and put it where I want it to be. Take off your socks. If you're going to wash your socks, put it where it's supposed to be. Change your uniform, put it where it's supposed to be. Establish that routine for when they get back from school. After establishing it, it becomes a couple of weeks of doing it together. When you begin to do it together, in fact, I usually recommend a visual routine, a very visual one. And then also, when it comes to your study routine, establish a pattern. Do you expect your children to make an effort in their work, first of all, before coming to you for assistance? Or do you expect them to come to you every time they don't understand something? Do you understand what I mean? Do you insist that they sit down, first of all, and try to solve that problem? Number one thing you should know is that it is very rare that a teacher will give your child homework on something that has not been taught. Very rarely does that happen. So if your child has been taught something in school, allow them try to figure it out. It's part of learning problem solving. If they can't, that's why you're there to support. But you're not there to do the work for them. You're also there to help them learn how to organize themselves and their time. Learn how to organize their time. Okay, I have 4 homeworks to get done. I have 4 assignments to get done today. Okay, so I need to spend X amount of time on each one, and I need to be focused. For younger children, I advocate, well, I know that this is going to sound a little bit controversial, but in my own case, when my children come home from school, after they have done their steps, put their bags away, taking their uniform off, had their lunch and all of that, they play. I allow them play. And why do I allow them play? Because you see, children were not built to sit still for a whole day. Children always have extra energy in them that needs to be burnt off. When they're coming home from school, many times they've sat in class listening for extended periods of time, and they just need to relax, first of all, and de-stress. You might think that children are not stressed or don't go through any stress, but they do. And it's important for you to ensure that children de-stress. I allow my children play, first of all. It might be 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, but they play. When they are done playing, when the time for play is over, right, we then come back and sit down and get our work done. I understand that in many homes, the reverse is the case. You tell your child, you cannot go out to play if you've not finished your homework. I understand, and that's why I said this might sound very controversial. But imagine yourself too, you go to work and you spend the whole day at work. When you come home, you don't want to immediately pick up your work and start working again. Sometimes your brain needs a break. And you are an adult who has been living on this earth for a whole maybe 30, 35, 40, 50 years, and you still need a break. Why do you then think that a small child will not need a break? It is so important to give them that break to just, be regulated again, get themselves together, get their act together before they start working. I know that it might sound controversial, but it has worked wonders since I started doing it with my children. It has worked wonders. The next thing I would like to speak about, the next thing I would like to speak about when it comes to the involvement of parents in their children's work is that you have to you have to show your child the importance you place on education. It's very important to show your child the importance you place on education. You can do this by letting them understand that, look, we might be planning an outing, we might be planning to go out to have fun to the beach or something, but the only way that we get to go to the beach is if we have achieved these goals. Now, you have discussed with your teacher the goals that you want your child to achieve. So you tie treats and outings to these goals. For older children in secondary school and beyond, you have to start teaching your child how to do what we refer to as vision boards. I'm sure many of you have heard about vision boards. And vision boards are those things that we do when we put together a board of where we see ourselves in the future, where we want to be. And we place that board in a prominent position where we can see it. And this helps us to set goals and work towards achieving those goals. So for example, your child has a vision board up, and I'm speaking to older children now. Your child has a vision board up saying that they want to be able to solve problems regarding any engineering problem, for example. Maybe they want to be the first people to make cars fly or something. Fine, I'm being out of the box now. If your child places that on the vision board, your next question to that child is, what do you need to do to achieve this? And this is for older children. Someone asked me about children who are in senior secondary school, and this is what you can do with them. So you set these goals with them, with your vision board with them. Then you set goals. What do you need to do to achieve these goals? For children who are older, I know that one of the questions that we're used to asking them is, what do you want to be in future? What do you want to do when you grow up? I recommend that we stop asking those questions. Questions that you should ask are questions like, what problems do you want to solve in the future? What problems would you like to solve? Now, then you begin to ask the child, what do you need to learn to solve these problems? That way you're working from a child's interest to help them set their goals, which makes a whole world of difference than just saying, I want to be a doctor. No, why do you want to be a doctor? What problem do you want to solve? I want to solve the problem of cancer in the world. Somebody that wants to solve the problem of cancer doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor. The person might need to be a researcher rather than a doctor. In fact, the person might be more interested in working in the laboratory to solve cancer. So then you're better able to guide your child and help them set goals, help them set learning goals. As a teenager, your role in the child's life, in the child's education, is to become a facilitator. Once your child becomes a teenager, especially when they become 15 or 16, 17, things are already done. And many times there's so much friction in that relationship already. You don't want education to be something that adds to it. So you are a facilitator. Your role there is to help them organize themselves, help them, identify their goals, help them decide what they need to do to achieve those goals. That's what your role is. Then help them organize themselves, right? That's what your role in educating a teenager becomes. It's different from your role in educating a younger child. where, for example, to promote literacy in that child's life, you must make sure, I don't think in this day and age, anybody has any excuse not to read to younger children, not to promote the reading culture in their household. So much has already been said about it that I don't want to dwell on it again, because it's already 9 o'clock and I don't want to keep you behind. But promoting reading, a reading culture in your home by ensuring that you buy books, second-hand books, it doesn't have to be expensive books, and you are reading it to the children. And when you're reading it to them, you're asking them questions like, oh, what do you think is going to happen next? How do you think this character feels? What do you think is what do you think is the moral of this story? By showing them the picture, the front cover of the book before you start reading, and asking them to tell you from the picture of the book, what do you think this book is about? You are promoting comprehension skills and things like that already. Additionally, tying what they are learning to real life is so important in the early years. So your child is learning how to count in school. I really hate that thing when I hear that your child is learning how to count 1 to 200. How is that tying to real life? Are you going to give your 3-year-old 200 items to count at home? No, you're not. So if your child is learning to count, what you should be helping your child to do at home is learning about one-to-one correspondence. Understanding that when I'm counting, 1 item is 1, 2 items are 2. Understanding that the total that I count is actually the number that I say at the end of my counting, right? These are things, and then tying it to when you go out to the shops, tying numbers to, oh, can you count how many packs of spaghetti mommy picked? You know, things like that. You tie what they're learning in school to real life. I don't want to go above time, and I have really not scratched even a quarter of what I had planned to speak about today. But it's 9:02, and I hope that at least from the little I've been able to speak with you, to say to you today, you've picked 1 or 2 things. I can still see that Adeyemi Olorukemi's hand is up. I'll allow you ask the question, please, and then we'll just round up so I don't keep you waiting. Hello? Is there anybody there?
Hello, I'm not raising up my hand. Probably my son touched the phone.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
So,
Well done.
so I hope that this very, very short time that we've had, I've been able to tell you 1 or 2 things that aid your involvement in your children's education. And if you have any questions, please ask them now. Feel free to ask them now. I can tackle them for as long as you're willing to stay.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Okay. If I remember, Margaret asked 1 question about promoting focus and attention in children. Now, this is a worldwide issue. It's not, and I think that the first thing to do is to realize this, that it's not only your child. Every child has issues with focus and attention. It just varies, in children, you know. And one thing that the human being, we are not born with attention and focus all sorted out. It's a muscle that we need to practice, and we need to learn, and we need to grow. The same way we are learning to read and write is the same way we need to learn how to pay attention. Unfortunately, we don't teach our children how to do it. So we teach our children how to pay attention from an early age, and we set reasonable expectations. One thing that I recommend is the use of a timer, the use of an alarm. It's so important when you're trying to teach your children how to focus. So what you do is that you start small. You start really small, and you give your children tasks that are interesting, that are fun, not necessarily tasks that have to do with school or learning. You can give them tasks that have to do with building fine motor skills. It doesn't matter whether they are 7, whether they are 6, 7, or 8. Little tasks like threading, I don't know if you know that threading activity, or puzzles or crossword puzzles, you know, things like that. And you set a timer. So you start from setting a timer to maybe 5 minutes, and you tell your child, I want to see how many words you can find in that crossword puzzle in the next 5 minutes. And then you give your child, and then this is a case of rewarding the child. Unfortunately, when we say reward doesn't necessarily have to mean buying something or giving them sweets. Even a, oh wow, acknowledgement, well done, good job. I see that you found 20 words in 5 minutes. That's really good. I'm not even sure I can do that. Just a statement like that is also a reward. Gradually, you begin to increase the time using the timer. All right. So you say to your child, oh, let's see how many sums you can solve in 10 minutes. If they solve 5 today in 10 minutes, tomorrow you still say the same thing. Let's see how many sums you can solve in 10 minutes. And then you now say, oh, today I see that yesterday you solved 5 sums, and today you have solved 7 sums in 10 minutes. All right. Now your goal might be that they should be able to solve 20 sums in 10 minutes or 10 sums in 10 minutes. Keep that goal at the view. Let the child know that our goal is on the day that the child hits that goal. Please, mommies and daddies, celebrate that child. Take them out. Do something nice. Cook a special meal. Give them something that they really like. Buy ice cream for them when they hit that goal. That way, you're building the attention span a little at a time. But for you to have a child who is only able to pay attention for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then automatically you are shouting and you want that child to be able to sit still for 20 minutes, I'm very sorry to inform you that that's not possible. You have to build it slowly and use a timer. That's the most efficient way to build it. And practice. Remember my saying, you know that saying of practice makes perfect. I tell my children instead that practice makes progress. So if you could solve 5 sums in 10 minutes today, and you practice, and then tomorrow you can solve 6 in 10 minutes, practice has made progress, and we're progressing towards that ultimate goal that we have. And then you begin to stretch the time. Begin to say in 20 minutes, in 15 minutes, in 13 minutes, and you keep stretching it until you reach the point you want. If you go online, there's a guideline that you will find. Just check online. Expected attention span for children age, and put your child's age there. You'll find a guideline that tells you how long a 7-year-old child is expected to be able to pay attention for. I hope that answers your question, Margaret. Hello, Margaret. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions that anybody else would like me to answer right now? Any questions? So I'd like to thank you very much for having me at this point. I hope that I've been able to, in a very small way, meet the brief that I was given within the time that we had. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please let's all appreciate Mrs. Tomi Nweke on the chat box. Please let's appreciate her. Thank you so much. And please, if you would not mind, I know, like you said, is a whole lot that will need to unravel. Would you mind coming back? We can have that discussion, because we would like to have all the information that you have for us.
No problem. I don't mind. I don't mind. I told you before that this is one of the things I enjoy doing, working with parents, so I don't mind.
Right. Thank you. So we'll schedule you again. First week in October, by the grace of God, we'll be having this conversation again. And until we're exhausted, we won't stop. God bless you so much. This has been of great value to me personally. This has been a blessing, and you're always a blessing to us. This is your second time on this call. The first time too was mind-blowing. I've had some people chatting me up even prior to this meeting that they are so looking forward to this conversation because they remembered you the last time when you talked to us about early childhood. Thank you so much. God bless you for coming. And thank you also everyone on this call for joining promptly. Please let's also watch out for the next time she'll be with us, first week in October. I've already put her on the spot. We've already booked the date. All right. And it's on.
No problem.
Yeah. So we're going to be having, because we need all the information that you can give us. God bless you. Thank you so much. And we also apologize, for stretching the time, but I believe it's time well spent, well invested, actually. So thank you, everyone. God bless you. Please, let's go and be doers of these things. Like I always say, it is not the hearer that is blessed, but the doer. Please, everything we're learning on PRGCC, let's go out there and practice them. Let's be involved in our children's education. God bless you all and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you, Sister Tomi. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Have a great week ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.